The plain outside Dara stretches flat and unbroken, a muted sea of earth and stone beneath the high sun. In this no-man's land between empires, the air carries a tension that is almost physical, an invisible weight pressing on every soldier who stands along the horizon. To the west lies the stronghold of the Byzantine Empire, a realm still defined by the enduring presence of its capital, Constantinople, and the memory of its emperor's victories and defeats. To the east, across rolling hills and desert reaches, the Sassanian Persian realm extends its influence, a kingdom of wealth and centuries-old martial tradition. Between these two powers, the plain of Dara will become a crucible of strategy, discipline, and human endurance. The year is 530 CE. Emperor Justinian I rules Byzantium, his ambitions sweeping across lands that were once Roman. His vision is not only to defend the empire, but to reclaim what had been lost, restoring Roman dominion in the east. For this purpose, he has invested heavily in fortifications along the Mesopotamian frontier. Dara itself, a fortress city whose walls have been strengthened over decades, stands as a bulwark against Persian incursions. Its position is strategic. From its walls, Byzantine commanders can control the surrounding plains and secure the vital communication lines that link the eastern provinces to the empire's heart. The Persians, under King Cavalry, are equally aware of Dara's significance. Cavalry's military machine is seasoned, battle-hardened, and disciplined. The Sassanian army is a formidable force, structured around heavily armored cavalry, cataphracts who can shatter infantry formations, and supported by skilled archers, whose volleys can suppress entire sections of the battlefield. The Persians viewed Dara not merely as a fortress to besiege, but as a symbolic barrier to Byzantine expansion, a litmus test of their military might. In the months leading to confrontation, tension thickens along the frontier. Byzantine scouts report Persian movements, but intelligence is incomplete. Terrain, climate, and the ever-present fog of war obscure the full size and intent of the approaching force. By spring, the Persian army encamps to the east of Dara, its banners fluttering, a visible testament to its strength. The Byzantines, though smaller in number, are methodical in their preparations. Belisarius, newly appointed command in Mesopotamia, surveys his army with measured attention. He understands that Dara will not fall to brute force alone. It will require discipline, terrain exploitation, and psychological leverage. Belisarius faces an army nearly double his own in size. The Persians number roughly 40,000, a mix of cavalry, infantry, and auxiliaries, while his force is closer to 25,000, though highly organized. These numbers, however, conceal an even more critical factor. The Byzantines are fighting defensively. Dara's walls, its ditches, and the prepared fortifications offer advantages that can magnify the effectiveness of his smaller army. Yet numbers alone do not determine the outcome. It is the cohesion of command and the ability to predict and manipulate the enemy that will dictate the battle. The Byzantines dig in along the plain with meticulous care. Belisarius arranges his forces into three main lines. The first is a lightly armored infantry screen, intended to absorb the initial shock of Persian attacks, while feeding information back to the central command. Behind them, the main Byzantine force, including heavy infantry and cavalry, forms a second line, prepared to deliver counterattacks with precision. On the wings, mobile cavalry units stand ready to exploit any Persian overextension. This setup is deceptively simple, yet it is calibrated to force the Persian army into a predetermined field of engagement, where the Byzantines can maximize the effectiveness of their defensive posture. The psychology of warfare is central to Belisarius' approach. He knows that confidence and perception shape the outcome of battle as much as strength. Each soldier is briefed on their role, every formation rehearsed, and the placement of reserves considered in painstaking detail. Discipline is not merely a virtue. It is the instrument by which a smaller army can confront a numerically superior opponent without succumbing to panic. For Belisarius, the goal is not to meet Persian strength with equivalent force, but to direct it, to channel into spaces and moments where it becomes vulnerable. The Persians, confident in their superiority, perceive Dara as an opportunity for a swift and decisive victory. Their cataphracts, encased in layers of mail and leather, are intended to break lines with sheer momentum, while their infantry supports the assault with heavy javelins and shields. Archers rain volleys from behind, softening any opposition before the decisive cavalry strike. Yet this confidence carries a hidden danger. Over-reliance on brute force makes the Persian predictable. Their cohesion, while formidable in open battle, can be undermined by careful placement of obstacles, trenches, and defensive formations. Belisarius exploits this predictability. He orders ditches to be dug and earthworks reinforced in front of his lines. These are not mere physical barriers. They are instruments of psychological pressure. The Persian cavalry, expecting a flat, unbroken advance, now encounters obstacles that disrupt momentum, creating hesitation. Every hesitation increases the likelihood of miscommunication and fragmentation within their ranks. Soldiers, even the most experienced, are prone to uncertainty when the anticipated flow of battle is interrupted. Belisarius knows that the Persian army, for all its experience, is vulnerable to such calculated stress. Within Dara itself, supplies and reinforcements are readied. Engineers and laborers reinforce the walls, position artillery, and prepare firing platforms. Every arrow, every stone, every bolt is to be employed in a manner that complements the broader strategy. This is not improvisation. It is orchestration. Belisarius' genius lies in the integration of every element, terrain, fortification, psychology, and timing, into a coherent whole. The Byzantines may be outnumbered, but they are organized, adaptable, and disciplined, qualities that can outweigh mere size when applied with precision. As the sun rises over the plain, the Persians begin their approach. Dust swirls across the flatlands as cavalry and infantry advance, banners snapping in the wind. Observers on the Byzantine lines note the rhythm of the Persian march, the spacing of units, the formations. Belisarius does not move immediately. He allows the enemy to commit to the advance, to reveal their intentions and weaknesses. The first clash is not yet. The field itself is a weapon, the engagement a question to which the Byzantines already know the answer. Tension spreads among the Persian ranks. Some commanders grow impatient, urging immediate engagement, while others caution against the unknown defenses that might await. The Byzantines, in contrast, remain composed. Their discipline is quiet but palpable. Each unit waits. Each man knows the consequence of premature action. Here, on the edge of the plain, leadership manifests as both foresight and restraint. Every step, every hesitation, every decision carries weight. By nightfall, both sides have settled into positions that will define the first engagement. The Persians, confident and imposing, encamp on the open plain, yet unconsciously funnel themselves into spaces the Byzantines have prepared. Trenches and earthworks are now invisible yet effective barriers. Psychological pressure mounts, as the Persian commanders, despite their experience, sense an undercurrent of tension in the Byzantine lines they cannot fully interpret. Belisarius has created a paradoxical situation. The smaller force appears ready yet calm, the larger force confident yet increasingly uncertain. The stage is set. In the coming hours, this tension, born of careful preparation, psychological insight, and strategic foresight, will reach its breaking point. The Battle of Dara will not be a simple clash of armies. It will be an intricate orchestration of expectation and disruption, of discipline confronting momentum, of human psychology colliding with the stark realities of war. And at the center of it, Belisarius stands, aware that the success or failure of his strategy will hinge not on heroism alone, but on the precise execution of every measure he has taken, on the fragile balance between preparation and opportunity, and on his ability to anticipate the consequences of each move before the enemy even perceives it. The night deepens over Dara. Soldiers on both sides lie awake, aware that the morrow will bring the full weight of history upon them. The plain, now quiet under moonlight, conceals the invisible geometry of war, the traps and channels carefully laid by Belisarius' mind. Somewhere in the Persian camp, commanders discuss their plans, unaware that each choice has already been subtly constrained by the Byzantine general's foresight. And somewhere along the walls, Belisarius walks among his men, calm, measured, unyielding, the eye of the storm that is about to engulf the plains of Dara. This is not yet the battle, but the first threads of collapse, of tension, of decision under pressure, are already being woven. And when the sun rises tomorrow, what is meant to be an overwhelming Persian advance will meet a force that, though smaller, has transformed preparation into lethal precision. Dawn breaks over the plain, a pale light spilling across the earth, turning dust into gold, and revealing the full scope of the battlefield. The Persians, their camp now fully formed, begin to stir. Cataphracts adjust their harnesses, infantry sharpen their weapons, and archers string their bows, ready to unleash a storm of arrows. There is confidence in the ranks, a belief that sheer weight of numbers and force will bend the Byzantine line. Yet that confidence, for all its surface clarity, masks the uncertainty beneath, uncertainty that Belisarius has cultivated with deliberate care. The Byzantine army moves with quiet efficiency. Soldiers advance to pre-assigned positions behind ditches and earthworks. Cavalry units fan out on the flanks, invisible from a distance, but positioned to strike decisively where the enemy is weakest. Artillery crews adjust their torsion-powered ballistae and catapults along the walls, ready to hurl stones and bolts into any breach attempts. Discipline here is absolute, but it is neither rigid nor static. It is a living, responsive force, calibrated to adapt to the Persian maneuvers that are yet to come. Belisarius surveys the field from a slight rise, his eyes sweeping the expanse of the plain. He notes the spacing of the Persian formations, the alignment of their cavalry, the apparent eagerness of the cataphracts to charge. The ditches and obstacles in front of the Byzantine lines, subtle from a distance, are designed to disrupt that eagerness. Even a momentary stumble among the Persian horsemen could cascade into chaos, breaking the rhythm of their advance. Belisarius understands that in war, perception often outweighs raw capability. An army that doubts itself is already halfway to defeat. The Persian commanders signal the beginning of the attack. Their infantry forms in compact blocks, shields raised, javelins poised. Behind them, archers release volleys intended to soften the Byzantine lines. The cataphracts, heavily armored and disciplined, wait for the precise moment to unleash a charge capable of shattering the front. But even as they advance, the landscape has been altered in ways they do not anticipate. Trenches, stakes, and subtle ridges lie in wait, designed to channel movement and create natural bottlenecks. Momentum, the Persians' greatest weapon, becomes a liability when it cannot be controlled. The first engagement is immediate and brutal. Persian arrows arc through the air, striking the forward Byzantine screen. Soldiers absorb the impact, shields locking together, advance methodically while feeding information to their commanders. The ditches prove effective almost immediately. Cataphracts attempting to gain speed falter, their formation broken, the rhythm of the charge disrupted. In these moments, hesitation spreads among the Persians. Where confidence once guided them, now doubt creeps in. Belisarius orders the second line to advance into the gaps created by these disruptions. Heavy infantry, well-armed and disciplined, meet the staggered Persian blocks, pushing against weakened points. Every push is calculated, every countermove deliberate. The Byzantines are not merely defending. They are controlling the battlefield, dictating where and when the Persians can exert force. Flank cavalry, previously concealed, strike at the edges of the Persian advance, exploiting the broken momentum and sowing confusion. Panic, subtle at first, begins to ripple outward from these points of contact. Communication within the Persian ranks becomes increasingly strained. Officers shout over the din, attempting to restore order, but the lines are no longer cohesive. Cataphracts, once the pinnacle of Sassanid shock power, find themselves disoriented by obstacles and the unexpected resistance of the Byzantine second line. Archers behind the front cannot maintain sustained fire without risk of striking their own troops into chaos. The battlefield, which had seemed a simple stage for strength, has become a trap, a place where overconfidence and rigid expectation collide with disciplined preparation. The engagement intensifies. Byzantine artillery hurls projectiles into densely packed Persian formations. Stones and bolts tear through shields, and volleys of arrows from hidden positions target officers, disrupting coordination. Each disruption compounds the next. Confusion spreads faster than the physical advance of the Byzantine troops. Soldiers in the Persian center begin to hesitate, unsure of where to commit their strength, while flanking units struggle against cavalry assaults that appear suddenly from unexpected angles. Belisarius observes, adjusts, and directs. Reserves are introduced at critical moments, shoring up pressure where the enemy threatens to regain momentum. Each Byzantine movement is not a reaction, but an orchestration, a pre-calculated manipulation of the Persian army's tendencies. The goal is not to annihilate every soldier at once, but control their advance, break cohesion, and exploit psychological fractures. Even the smallest hesitation in the Persian ranks is magnified under relentless pressure. By midday, the Persian army shows signs of strain. What began as confident momentum has become fragmented movement. Cataphracts, their charges repeatedly blunted by ditches and flanking attacks, grow frustrated and hesitant. Infantry, caught between relentless forward pressure and unexpected counterattacks, begin to lose cohesion. Communication falters further as messengers struggle to navigate the chaotic battlefield. Belisarius' smaller, disciplined force exerts a control far beyond its numbers, demonstrating the power of strategy married to preparation. One critical factor in this engagement is terrain exploitation. Belisarius has chosen not merely a position, but a battlefield, shaping it into an instrument of control. Every ditch slows a charge. Every ridgeline allows observation and intervention. Every concealed unit creates uncertainty. The Persians, despite experience and discipline, find themselves reacting rather than dictating. Their strength is formidable, but it is being methodically channeled into spaces where it becomes vulnerable rather than decisive. The psychological weight of the battlefield begins to take its toll. Soldiers, seeing comrades falter and formations break, hesitate in ways that are difficult to quantify but lethal in effect. Even experienced cataphracts and seasoned infantrymen cannot maintain perfect cohesion under repeated disruption. Belisarius has turned hesitation into a tool, and the Persians, despite their numbers, are caught in a cycle of uncertainty and reaction. As the battle progresses, the Byzantine wings execute a decisive maneuver. Cavalry units that have remained hidden until now strike the Persian flanks, targeting the weakest points created by stalled charges and disruptive formations. The effect is immediate. Persian units are split, coordination falters, and panic begins to propagate. The Byzantines, small in number but organized and adaptive, exploit every gap with precision. The momentum of the previously unstoppable Persian advance collapses under the weight of calculated pressure. Within the Persian center, disorder spreads. Officers shout futile commands. Soldiers stumble through ditches, and cataphracts collide with one another in confused attempts to regain cohesion. The field, once the domain of Persian strength, has become a controlled environment dominated by Belisarius' design. The Byzantines, disciplined and patient, now dictate every aspect of the engagement. By mid-afternoon, the full scope of the Byzantine strategy becomes evident. The Persians are no longer advancing en masse. They are struggling to maintain lines, fighting against not only the enemy but the terrain, obstacles, and the cumulative pressure of continuous disruption. Each failed charge, each broken formation, amplifies uncertainty. What began as confidence is now anxiety. What began as momentum is now hesitation under the relentless guidance of a smaller, more disciplined force. Belisarius does not rush. He allows the Persians to exhaust themselves, to overcommit to attacks that serve only to deepen the fractures he has engineered. The battlefield is a dynamic chessboard, every move observed and every response anticipated. The Byzantines exploit every opening, turning hesitation into vulnerability and vulnerability into opportunity. The momentum that should have been Persian strength becomes, in effect, their undoing. As dusk approaches, the Byzantine army maintains cohesion, while the Persian lines show clear signs of disintegration. The cataphracts, once feared for their shock value, are isolated and disoriented. Infantry, their confidence shaken, cling to minimal formations while flanking units collapse. The battle, though not yet fully decided, has shifted decisively. The stage is set for the final moments, where the fractures created throughout the day will transform into complete collapse. The plain of Dara, once the site of imminent Persian triumph, has become a testament to preparation, discipline, and the integration of strategy, terrain, and psychological pressure. Belisarius' smaller force, through measured patience and precise execution, has turned the expectations of the larger army against itself. What remains is the moment when hesitation will become panic, fragmentation will become rout, and a carefully prepared Byzantine army will convert its control into absolute dominance. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows across the plain of Dara. Dust rises in thin, wavering columns from the movements of men and horses, obscuring lines and amplifying confusion. By now, The Persian army has expended much of its momentum. The once cohesive cataphracts are disordered, their charges repeatedly blunted by ditches and flanking cavalry. Infantry formations are patchy, officers struggling to reassert command over units that no longer respond reliably. The battlefield, which seemed poised to witness Persian dominance, has become a controlled environment dominated by Byzantine strategy and psychological pressure. It is here, in these critical hours, that the turning point unfolds. Belisarius recognizes that the Persian army is approaching the edge of collapse, but timing is crucial. Attack too early, and the Byzantines risk unnecessary casualties. Wait too long, and the Persians may regroup or adapt. Patience, honed through disciplined preparation, becomes an instrument of war. Observing the uneven distribution of Persian forces, he signals his hidden reserves to advance. Cavalry on the wings, fresh infantry into the center. The aim is to exploit the growing disorientation and convert hesitation into complete rout. The Byzantine wings move with precision. From concealed positions, cavalry sweeps around the Persian flanks, striking at the rear of cataphract formations that have become bogged down in trenches. Archers and light infantry engage from elevated positions, targeting officers and reinforcing the sense of encirclement. Panic, subtle at first, begins to spread. Soldiers who fought resolutely now see their comrades retreating or stumbling through obstacles. Coordination evaporates. Every order from Persian commanders is delayed or ignored, lost in the confusion of disrupted formations. The central line, composed of Byzantine heavy infantry, presses forward. Soldiers advance steadily, shield to shield, taking advantage of every gap caused by stalled Persian charges. Stones, arrows, and repeated pressure break morale incrementally. The once feared cataphracts are trapped in a cycle of failed assaults, retreating under pressure only to encounter flanking attacks. Their momentum, the instrument of their power, has been turned against them. In war, momentum can be a weapon or a liability, and here it has become fatal. A psychological collapse accelerates the physical one. Panic spread from unit to unit. Soldiers, uncertain where to push or whom to follow, begin to scatter. Some attempt to regroup but find themselves isolated. The terrain, designed for Byzantine advantage, channels them into areas where cavalry and artillery strikes are concentrated. Fear, compounded by exhaustion, hunger, and repeated failure, fractures the remaining structure of the Persian army. Discipline, which had carried them through decades of conflict, falters under pressure precisely where Belisarius has engineered it to. Belisarius does not relent. His command is calm but unyielding. Reserves continue to engage, exploiting every weakness, every hesitation. By now, the Persian lines have disintegrated into fragments, scattered clusters of infantry and cavalry attempting to escape encirclement. Cataphracts, who should dominate the battlefield, are reduced to isolated units, overwhelmed by concentrated counterattacks. Every advance of the Byzantines is deliberate, calculated to preserve cohesion while magnifying the enemy's disorder. The collapse becomes total when the wings of the Byzantine cavalry converge behind the Persian center. From the perspective of those trapped, escape routes vanish. Surrounded, exhausted, and demoralized, the Persians face the grim reality of annihilation. Retreats become chaotic, uncoordinated flights across the open plain, with little hope of regrouping. Soldiers drop weapons, horses stumble, and the noise of panic. Shouts, cries, the clash of metal fills the air. What had begun as a confident, imposing army is now a fragmented and routed force, at the mercy of the Byzantine strategic design. Casualties are heavy, though the Byzantines, disciplined and strategically positioned, avoid the full cost of open field slaughter. The Persians, caught in trenches, flanking attacks, and concentrated artillery, suffered disproportionately. Cataphracts, armored and powerful, are neutralized by obstacles and precise maneuvers. Infantry units are broken, scattered, or captured. By the end of the engagement, the battlefield bears the marks of meticulously executed strategy rather than chaotic slaughter. Trenches, disrupted formations, and isolated pockets of resistance surrounded and neutralized. The psychological impact on both armies is profound. For the Byzantines, victory reinforces the value of discipline, preparation, and strategic foresight over sheer numbers. Soldiers witness how cohesion and patience can transform disadvantage into dominance. For the Persians, the defeat shatters confidence, demonstrating that even the most formidable force can be undone when momentum is disrupted and command is undermined. Dara becomes more than a tactical victory. It is a case study in the orchestration of battlefield psychology and the precision of leadership under pressure. In the aftermath, Belisarius consolidates his gains. Survivors of the Persian army are pursued only to the extent necessary to prevent regrouping. Dara's fortifications hold, and Byzantine control of the surrounding plain is reinforced. Supplies are secured, the wounded attended to, and the army reorganized to respond to any residual threat. The Sassanid defeat, though not catastrophic in absolute terms, delivers a strategic blow. The Persians' eastern frontier is checked, their aura of invincibility diminished, and the Byzantines gain a morale advantage that extends far beyond the battlefield.